Just going to give it a moment. I am here today to talk about some feedback I received. And guess what? It's not about positive feedback, because that is rarely what we focus on, right? Rarely what we focus on. So I want to talk about a few elements of the experience of receiving negative feedback. One of my big commitments to myself right now is really to walk my talk. So, in that spirit, this was a great opportunity for me to lead myself first, which is one of the things I speak about a lot. Like, how do you lead yourself first before you think about leading anyone else? Say hi if you're on. I can't see you. I can see that people are here, but I don't know who you are, and I'd love to say hello. So please say hi if you're here. So, hi, Anne. Good to see you. So, negative feedback. So, I teach a lot of workshops, and I always get a lot of positive feedback, right? I do. And I love it, and it makes me feel good, and I pat myself on the back. And then I immediately dismiss it and focus on if there is any negative, which often there isn't, but sometimes there is, like, or a suggestion to do something better. I really find myself obsessing about the one thing that they said that I could do better. And today was no different. So I received a piece of feedback that this person just, didn't enjoy something about the class. So the first thing I want to say is we always do focus on the one thing that didn't go right, and even if we think about a whole day, right, if we're going to bed at night and we have a quick think, the thing that will show up is the thing that didn't go well, right? The thing you did wrong, or the situation that didn't go the way you wanted it to, or whatever. Like, we just have an inherent bias towards those negative things. And that's just, your brain is built that way. So there's nothing wrong with that, but we just want to be aware that that's not always reality, right? It doesn't mean that everything's wrong. It just means that our brain is focusing on that. So that was the first thing I noticed was, wow, there was like 18 really good comments. And then this one thing that I could have done differently is the one that, of course, I'm obsessing about. So that was the first thing I wanted to notice. The second thing that pops up is my desire to defend myself, right? So I want to be right about this situation. I want to be right about what I did and make inherently that other person wrong. Now, that's not who I am in reality, but that's my initial reaction, right? Is, I don't want to be wrong about what I did. So my natural reaction is going to be to defend myself, which is one of the reasons I decided to do this Facebook Live, because of my initial thought is I want to defend myself. And then the second thought is, but that's not who I am. And I want to give space for both the things that I do believe that I did right and the reason I did the thing I did, but also give space that I could also be wrong about that. And that person's experience was also true. And I want to be thinking about, do I want to do that again? So I'll tell you just a bit of what the feedback was about. So I often, when I work with people in classes or individually, have people like think about something that was not a nice experience. So I may say something like, think about something that made you angry or frustrated or annoyed or disappointed or etc., right? And when people think about that thing, they have the experience of being frustrated again, right? You've probably all done that, right? Where in the evenings, you think about that conversation you had, or the way that person treated you, or a decision that was made that didn't go your way, whatever. You think about it and then you get kind of mad again. So I do that regularly, because I want people to experience what happens to them in that moment when they think about something, right? So what happens is you have a physiological response, right? Your palms might get sweaty, you might get tight chest, you feel the thing, you feel the experience of that emotion again. And it's not very nice, right? It really isn't. And the experience of that physiological response is one thing, but the truth is it's also having an effect on your brain. It's having an effect on how smart you are, like literally how smart you are in that moment. So your ability to make good decisions, your ability to connect with someone, have a good relationship in that moment, your ability to think, like problem solve, or a number of things like that are really important to us, kind of diminish when we have those moments of getting frustrated or angry. So when I'm teaching a class, I want people to have that experience, because I want them to get that, like, oh God, like that happens to me all day long, I read the email again that made me mad. I think about the thing again. I tell someone about it and I get mad again. Like we do it. Most of us anyway, I don't know too many people who don't have an experience of reliving something that happened during that day or during the week before. So in my defense, that's why I do it, because I want people to get that they make themselves have that experience over and over again. And that leads to not exhibiting the behaviors that they want to exhibit, like avoiding doing a really hard task, avoiding having a hard conversation, not giving positive feedback to someone, like the things that we kind of know that we want to do, we avoid them because we're not being very smart in those moments. So that's the reason I do it. There's my defense. That's my defensive state of, like, this is why I do it and I'm right. On the other hand, I completely understand why this person had that experience of, like, this was not a good thing for me. Because it isn't a good thing for any of us to go through that. And if we then can't get ourselves out of it, which can be for lots of reasons, right? We have trauma, we've got that as a challenge in our life. I don't want to activate people's trauma. Like, that's not my intent at all. And yet that's what I did. So I do have to think about that. Is that the right way of doing this, right? It's a great experiential activity in my classes to do that. And I don't want people to, be having a negative experience of the rest of their day because of that. So I do plan to really think and reflect on what's the best way of teaching this tendency we have, and not just make it a mental exercise of, like, imagine all of this, but don't put yourself through it, because that kind of is also important. So I don't know. I don't have the answer. And that was the other thing I wanted to say, that is another thing about walking my talk, is I don't have the answer. Like, I'm not right, they're not right, or we're both right. And so many things are like that. Our brain so wants there to be a black and white answer. Like, no, this is the right answer. Like, this is the truth and everyone else just has to deal with it. Or, no, that person is right and I'm wrong. And often it isn't quite as easy as that. Both things can be true. And so for me, it's a question of, how do I teach something that I think is a really important tool, a really important understanding of ourselves, of, like, oh God, look what happens to me in that moment when I think about the email. And is there a way for me to do it in a way that doesn't negatively impact people in a more substantial way than I want? Obviously, a little negative impact is the goal, but not to have it be that it completely spoils the experience. So I have to really reflect on that and figure out what to do about that. So I wanted to come on here because it's very easy for me to think about these things and just be you know, logical and think logical thoughts about what happened. But I also know for me, it's really, I want to embody what I teach, and receiving negative feedback is something that makes me, you know, it puts me in that response of not being able to think very straight, not being able to problem solve, not being good at relating to people, right? It puts me in that same state that other people, I'm teaching other people about. So I wanted to come on here and kind of not make myself, but hold myself accountable for dealing with it in the moment and talking about it in the moment, and then being willing to actually think, you know, both things can be true. I can be right and that person can be right. And then it's what I do with that's important. So, thank you for listening. I just invite you to see if there's anywhere in your life you do that. Focus on the negative instead of all the good things that happened, and just recognize that and give yourself a bit of a break. And then notice again, do you jump to either defending or needing to be right? It's like, again, it's just a normal human thing to do. But can you, again, just take a breath and recognize that two things can be true at the same time? Other people's experience are what they are, and it's no yet less valid or more valid than your own. It's a hard one sometimes. And then, again, notice for yourself, do you get thrown off by thinking about things that happened earlier or yesterday, and do you then re-experience that stressful thing all over again and potentially diminish your ability to function really well? So with that, I will say goodbye. Thank you for dropping in on my Facebook Live. I'm going to be doing a couple of free workshops coming up. So if you'd like to hear about those that are related to this, like moving from this response to the response of just being cognitively brilliant and using your brain really effectively. So if you'd like to hear more about those, pop them in the chat bar. I won't be posting them officially on social media. They will be on my webpage and so on. But if you'd like to hear about them, I can private message you or send you an email. So let me know if you'd like to hear about those. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Mwah.